Hi, I'm Brian. Welcome back to another On the Road video brought to you by ApplianceVideo.com. Stop! Before beginning any repair, always be sure to disconnect the power to the appliance. It is also recommended to test the outlet for proper voltage. Alright, today we're looking at an Ikea wall oven, and the complaint is after a self-clean cycle, the unit would not unlock the door and we did not have power, no display, no light. The tools needed for this repair are a Phillips screwdriver or 1/4-inch nut driver, a pair of needle nose pliers, and a multimeter. So what we've done so far is remove the 2 mounting screws that hold the wall oven into the cabinet, so we could pull it out to gain access to our 2 screws on the control panel here, and then we removed those so we could get into the control area here. First thing we checked is we do currently have power going to it. We were able to release the lock on the door here. We just used like a bent coat hanger, and you can come from the right side and move it towards the left side with the door closed, and it just pushes the lock over to unlock it at that point. So what we got is we got into the control area here. All right, so what we found here is there's a control cavity fuse right here, and it's temperature based, so if it gets too hot in this area, it's going to blow this resistor fuse. So we took our wires off of the fuse, checked for continuity through it. We did not have continuity, so that tells us that this fuse is bad. Also, we then bypassed the fuse and turned the unit back on, which restored power to the unit. We put it in a bake cycle at that point, and the unit still did not heat. So then there's also a thermal fuse on the back of this unit that just controls power going to the bake and broil elements. So from the control board here, we're able to ohm and test that thermal fuse in the back, and we're able to do that on the red wire going to this relay right here. On the right side, this red wire just comes in from the terminal block and goes straight into the relay, and then the relay closes and then sends power out of this wire down through the thermal fuse to the elements. So by going through this side of the relay and basically both wires here, or this and over at the terminal block, we were able to determine that the fuse was bad. All right, so we've actually got a kit that they've came out with and redesigned a couple things. It comes with this fuse and the thermal fuse in the back. It's going to position the fuses in different locations so that the airflow can better circulate across it and that the heat doesn't get too hot around it, causing them to fail during or after a self-clean cycle. All right, so the first thing we need to do is remove this control panel here. There's 2 different ribbon cable connections on our main control board, and we're just going to release those. And then there's just a ground strap wire clamp over here to release. And now we can set our control panel to the side. All right, we talked earlier about removing the mounting screws that go through here into the cabinet. And to get to that point, we had to remove these trim pieces that were on the sides of the oven here. And there's a little screw hole here that goes into this one right here that holds that trim piece in place. So you remove the screw, and then you can take these off on both sides and gain access to your mounting screws. All right, what we're gonna need to do to replace the kit with the thermal fuses is remove the oven from the wall. And what we'll do is remove our racks from inside. And our oven door. With the oven door open, you have 2 little hinges that are going to come up to there, and that will allow you to remove the door when we close it to about this position right here. And then the door will come off. All All right, so here we have our Ikea TOD service kit, or thermal overload device service kit. And inside has a bunch of stuff for us, including instruction booklet here. We'll set the rest of this aside. So the first thing on here, after disconnecting power, removing the oven, we're going to remove the 8 screws to gain access to the blower assembly and set the screws aside. So that's our top panel here. We also have 2 screws here. And this screw that holds the clamp for our power wire. All right, so that brings us all the way to step 8 in the instruction manual, which is to remove the back panel of the oven to gain access to our TOD in the back and replace it. And here's our thermal cutoff, or thermal overload device. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're going to show how to test the thermal fuse at the control board. All right, so we're going from this red wire at the JP21 connection, and then the red wire on our relay here. We just got our meter set to continuity or audible tone ohms, and right now we're not picking anything up because our thermal cutoff, or our thermal overload device in the back, is bad. So you can see if I take this wire off one side of it, and basically this is, bad, so we don't have a connection through here, and I take this wire and connect it, you can see then that we have a audible tone, so we now have continuity, we completed the circuit. So that's how you can tell that this fuse here is bad. Okay, so we're just going to pull the 2 wires off of our thermal overload device and remove the 2 1/4-inch screws. All right, and in our kit they give us a new TOD. In our kit is a new TOD. And that's all we need to do back here. We can put our back panel back on. Okay, so that brings us to steps 9 through 12. And we're going to be removing the 2 ground screws. And then the 2 screws that hold the terminal block in place. The transformer screw, and the 2 screws that hold the mounting plate on this side. All right, we're gonna remove the 2 screws on the other side of the mounting plate. These are 1/4 inch or Phillips. All right, that brings us to step 13 in the instruction manual, which is going to be removing these 2 screws for the control board. And step 14 was previously done, which is just removing the 2 gray ribbon connectors from the control board. Okay, that brings us to step 15 and 16, which is going to be tilting this mounting plate back and getting the 2 clips that hold this resistor fuse in place. We're just going to set everything we've disconnected off to the side. Alright, so we're going to tip that back, and using a pair of needle nose pliers, we're going to release these clips by squeezing and pushing down. Alright, so what that's done is removed and released everything from this mounting plate that we're going to be removing and not using again in this unit. Alright, that brings us to step 17 and 18, which is going to be installing the new control bracket. And we're going to place it, has 3 screw tabs here, and we're going to line it up with, I believe, this hole, this one, and this one over here. This little elbow bracket is going to be where the location of our new control cavity fuse is going to be, and that's going to face the front of the oven. So we're going to line that up and reinstall 3 screws. And now we can set our control board on this new bracket. And we're going to secure it with 3 screws. All right, that brings us to step 19 through 21. And what we're gonna do now is take this new transformer bracket supplied in the kit, and this tab is gonna go in the tab behind the control board. And then we're gonna secure it over here with a screw. All right, and the next step is our wiring harness leading to the cooling fan motor. There's a piece of tape here around it. It's going to be the larger group of wires, including the white and gray wiring, and we're going to remove this piece of tape. We're not going to remove this piece of tape on the smaller bunch, including the blue and black wires. So I'll go ahead and peel this piece of tape off of here. All right, now we can replace our transformer on the new transformer bracket here with the wiring pointing to the control. All right, step 22 is going to have us bring the terminal block from the left side and mount it on the right side of the oven. We're going to go underneath this harness and position it here. We're going to use these two screw holes in the cabinet. We're going to reuse our Phillips screws that removed from it on the other side and mount it on this side. Okay, the next step is to replace our thermal fuse. The new thermal fuse has a black and a white tab to secure it onto our bracket over here. The white tab's a lot larger than the black tab, and we have one hole here that's a lot larger than the other side. So we're gonna install it accordingly. We're gonna go here. All right, and then we can remove our wires from the old thermal fuse. And reinstall those onto the new one. Okay, that brings us to step 24, which is just reinstalling our two ground screws. And this one's gonna attach here. And this one over here. All right, our next step is to install the bridge bracket, and one end is we're gonna go underneath our wiring here. This end's gonna go into the slot, and the other end is going to line up right with a hole in the cabinet to install the screw, right next to the ground screw we installed. All right, we're at step 26 now, which requires the control panel to be installed. So we're gonna go ahead and set our control panel back in place. There's going to be little housings that these arms are gonna sit in on each side, so we'll set those in place. Okay. All right, we're reconnecting the two gray ribbon cables to the control board. And now we're using the zip tie provided in the kit to zip tie these gray ribbon cables to the orange and yellow wires on this harness of the control board. And this is just to keep the wires out of the way so they don't droop down and potentially get in the way of the door latch. And the next step, which is going to be step number 27, is to take this wire harness here. This is one of the tabs that were removed in step 16, and we're going to be placing that into the hole on the bridge bracket. All right, we're at step 29 now, which just tells us to go ahead and take the cooling fan wires and secure it to the bridge bracket on this side. And this bunch of loose wiring on the other side of the bridge bracket, zip tie it in place as well. All right, and step number 30 is going to be install box cover to control panel with tape as shown. in the instructions. So we're supplied with this double-sided sticky tape that we're gonna put on each side of this cover. All right, and then this cover with the open end pointing up, we're gonna fit in here. All right, and we're just gonna tape it to the control panel there like so. Okay, that brings us to step 31 through 36, which is reinstalling the top covers and putting the oven back in place. All right, we got the unit reinstalled and power turned back on. So we'll go ahead and just put it into a bake cycle and turn it on here and make sure everything's working. You can tell everything's heating up and working properly for you. So this will complete your repair. Thank you for watching another quality video brought to you by ApplianceVideo.com.